There must be something about CIPP we're announcing today. All right, let's party, folks. We got 150 people on. Welcome to the open mic. You got Aharon here. Couple reminders. We do this call because MSPs asked. They wanted to hear what was new with the platform, what bugs we fixed, and you folks wanted to do a little R&D or rob and duplicate automation ideas from your MSP peers. Just a couple reminders. I'm going to go in the Wayback Machine here. Let's see. We started with carrier pigeons. That's how we communicated long distances. We had birds. We fed them. We tied notes to their feet and they went off. Eventually, Morse code was invented and we started sending telegrams. Then the radio happened. Then the phone happened. And then email. And folks were really slow to adopt email. There was a lot of folks that really still wanted to pick up the phone. And then Slack, was it? Well, wait a second, AIM, AOL Instant Messenger, but then Slack came out. And then after Slack, we had Discord. All we're trying to do with Discord, it's not that we're like lovers of Discord or anything. We're just trying to stay modern with the way that we communicate with our people and create a community. So embrace Discord, just like we no longer embrace the carrier pigeon. Also, speaking of Discord, if you have a question, jump in the Kewp. You can ask like every Rewst user known in the world your question. Folks will have the ability to see it and respond, including our support team. If you don't want the world to see your question, plop it in your Discord channel. And my team will go in there and check it out for you. Also, if you're the CEO of an MSP or a decision maker and you're not one of the engineers, this call can be very technical. Feel free to listen in and get automation ideas to give to your team or try to get your team to join the call with you. And with that, I think that's all I'm going to talk about today. So let's party. Ash, what's going on?
Thank you, Aharon. Yeah, so thank you also, Kelvin, for the everyone tag. Everyone who is here on the call, I'm sure greatly appreciates it. We are going to jump into some exciting demos and also some exciting community announcements. We'll get started with those. George.
Yes, thank you. I'm going to keep mine short and sweet this week because we do have a packed agenda with some great demos. But announcement number one, what you all know and love to hear, it's going to start hard and heavy. It's this. If you haven't registered, go get registered. Get your early bird ticket. If you want to speak, our call for speakers is still open. Make your submission. We'd love to hear your thoughts on what you want have to say, whether you're a business owner or a technician or an engineer. We are interested to hear from you. That's what the Flow conference is all about. It's MSPs coming together to talk about automation. With that in mind as well, a quick tidbit, if you missed our webinar this week, it was all about automation beyond the help desk. So we actually had 3 MSP owners coming in to talk about how they're using automation to scale their business. So again, that's a conversation you missed. It's on demand on our website. Go check it out. 3 MSP CEOs talking all about how they are hiring, how they're scaling, how their businesses are growing. A great thing as well, if you're a technical person who maybe struggles with those conversations with your boss or higher ups, a conversation you can direct them towards. Next month's webinar on December 13th is now available to register for. Let me jump into the chat. It is all about AI and automation. So we see a lot of confusion in the market. We see a lot of people talking about both of these things. So next month, we're partnering with Thread to kind of pop the hood on that and discuss the good things that automation does, its strengths and weaknesses, and the good things that AI does and its strengths and weaknesses, and kind of walk through some examples of how MSPs are using those and some of the things you should get lined up for in 2026. Last tidbit from me, as Aharon asked at the start of this call, next week is American Thanksgiving, but we will still be here on Friday for anybody who is not celebrating that holiday. So think of it as a Canadian takeover. The Canadians will be here causing a ruckus, and anybody else is welcome to join. So hope to see some folks next Friday as well. But that's it from me on community updates. Ashley, back to you.
All right, thank you, George. Now we are going to jump over to Clea.
Thank you, Ash. And I just want to know if your mention in the chat, ask them my questions and get some answers, comes from The Little Mermaid.
It does.
Yes. Okay, validated. Speaking of Little Mermaid, training updates. We have a brand new course in Cluck University. It is the second link that I dropped in the chat, Automation Lab. I'll give you a little sneak peek in just a moment. But to knock out some other updates, we are always making updates to Cluck University content. Recently clarified some language on documentation in a ConnectWise lesson. If you ever see a video and it's showing old documentation that doesn't match what you see in Rewst, always use the docs. They are the source of truth. Video takes us more time to update, but we are working on it. Shout outs, as always, to folks who recently got certified in Rewst Foundations and or Clean Automation. For this week, we have Alex, Michael, Chris, Jamie, Ryan, Max, Andy, Joseph, and Zephron. And for Clean Automation, we've got Zephron, Michael, Travis, Sean, Ryan, Max, Victor, and Matthew. Lot of new documentations here. I know some of these are going to be really interesting to folks, so give those some clicks, give them some love, go check out what we recently documented. And if you happen to be in Rewst today, you might see a little call out here in the space on the right. This is a call to register for our upcoming Automation Lab live training. It is coming up on December 9th. So I've already registered here. I see a slightly different view than folks who haven't yet. Learn all about the session and why we're doing it, and sign up right here. It will be co-hosted by the legendary Eddie Chow and our automation strategist, Nalan Kapoor. I'm going to share a lot of insights on why the just-in-time admin access crate is so valuable from a security and business operations perspective, share insights from real Rewst users that we talked to who are getting value out of the crate and actually getting their technicians to submit the form that does the thing. So don't miss that. Sign up today. Get your training on. Beyond that, I'll just say you can get to Cluck University anytime from the platform, clicking on the little question mark in the icon, jumping over to ye old Cluck U. And you'll notice that we feature our newest courses at the top, 3 ways to start using RobRewsty, the Automation Lab course. And we recently added a live training option to our office hours. They're now also available in an Australian-friendly zone. And of course, Automation Lab, all the plugs for that. So let me know if you have any question, and I'm looking forward to seeing you all there December 9th. Come automate things in a lab with us. It's going to be great. Back to you, Ash.
Thank you, Clea. All right, so on that note, let us flip over to Jesse for our marketplace update.
Hello, everybody. I'm going to try to keep my volume moderated. For those of you who were on the last couple, I know I got a little loud, so going to keep it within the limiter here on the decibels. Let me get my screen shared up here. I'm going to close my Teams chat so that I can see the absolute annihilation of my name later after people dunk on me here, so go nuts. I'll start with the marketplace update, and then we have some DropSuite crates that we're going to demo today. I'm going to try to move pretty quickly because we have 3 of them, and like George said, we have a pretty packed schedule, but please interrupt me if you have questions, post questions in the chat, and ask questions at the end as well for the DropSuite stuff. Going through our regular marketplace update here, as I said, we'll be talking about DropSuite stuff in a second. Specifically, it's a create new account crate that we have, as well as a backup monitoring crate that we have. And then we also have additions to the billing reconciliation, or billing count report, I should say, workflow as well, which I'll show here in a sec. Looking at our bug fixes and our chores, for the find inactive computers in RMM crate, we've updated the input label and description for specifying minutes. Somebody flagged that it wasn't clear whether it was seconds or minutes, so we just added some specification there. For those of you in New Zealand, if anybody is on the call who's from New Zealand, or for those of you in France, if you're still sticking around on your weekend, we have added those 2 regions to the M365 usage location org variable in the configure org variable page. Adding a client to Rewst, we updated Proofpoint to change domains to domain. That was a specification that somebody asked for, and we replaced a Huntress options generator with the new Huntress org options generator. So just a quick update there to kind of bring things up to par with some of the other options gens. OpenAI ticket sentiment analysis, we added Anthropic, same with the ticket categorization, and then we are also working on the suggest responses as well. So those of you that use Anthropic as your AI provider, you should be able to start using those AI ticket crates that we have for you. So, and we are, I think, shout out to Jack Rowley if he's on the call. He noted that we can't call them OpenAI ticket sentiment analysis anymore because now it's got more than one AI. So the name will be adjusted and the docs will be adjusted and everything as well. So, and then last thing here, the document BitLocker information, we fixed a type data alias, and then updated an action to infer online status as well. And then coming soon, we got a few things that we're working on to finish off before the end of the year. We got per machine password rotation, which is part of a broader privileged access management push we're going to be doing in December. Still working on enhanced logging for user onboarding. That should hopefully be out before the end of the year. And then there are actually 2 more DropSuite things that we're working on that we didn't quite get finished for this week. We're adding DropSuite to the onboard and the offboard workflow. So provisioning a new user to do backup monitoring, and then deprovisioning a user who had backup monitoring active. But we'll talk more about that hopefully next week. And with that, I'll jump into our DropSuite demos here. So we're going to go over the backup monitoring and the create new account, and then the billing count report stuff here. Less of a demo, more of a show and tell. I'm not going to actually run anything live because our test environment does not have great data. So Alexis on our marketplace team has been kind enough to run some stuff ahead of time so I can show you guys the results here. For backup monitoring, talking a little bit about how the crate functions and how the DropSuite endpoints work. So if you guys haven't jumped into exploring the DropSuite integration yet, one of the big things it can do is mainly what DropSuite's platform does is back up different pieces of information. So you can see here the bulk of the workflow is we've got a bunch of cron jobs here. So all of the backup monitors in DropSuite run on different cadences for a myriad of different reasons. So we've created a bunch of cron triggers that mirror those schedules so that we're running our checks in pretty close lockstep with the way that they're running their backup checks as well. And then we basically get which backup we're doing from the cron trigger that flips over. Then we have a big no-op here that determines which direction we go down, and then we'll pick the specific endpoint that's going to do the specific backup that we want to do. One thing to note is that a few of these iterate over different sites or different domains. So if you're doing domains, it's going to iterate over all of your domains to get that information. Same with the SharePoint site, it's going to iterate over all of your SharePoint sites to get all of that information into the workflow. And then some of them, it's just a flat list that it pulls, and then we basically check to see if there are any that have failed backup status. And then if we need to, we will create or update a ticket. And then we also check to see if they have succeeded in the time since the ticket has been created. And then we would close the ticket if needed from there. So just to kind of show what some of the tickets look like, I'm using manage here. So basically what this will do is when it runs, it will either create a new ticket and put here are the failed backups for whatever services is. So in this case, this is OneDrive that we're looking at. If it continues to flip over and fail, then it would keep showing that in the same ticket day over day, or as the cron flips over again. And then as things complete successfully, it's going to say that these were then successful, and it's going to close out the ticket so that you guys don't have to worry about managing the tickets that are created from this. It's more so you can go and take some remedial action and then know that the ticket will kind of close itself the next period that it rolls over to. So. And then just another example of a ticket. This one is for backup emails. So same thing, it's just putting all of the items into here. So that's the backup monitoring crate. I'll pause there for a sec. Any questions about that one at all? I can check the chat too. I don't know if people are track here. This is where we'll get a preview of
He might be
chirps in the
scrolling a
chat
long
here.
way back, Jesse.
Yeah, okay.
Your
Hopefully
name
there's
pops
not
up a
too
lot.
many. Yeah, okay. Yeah, Jesse, Hilda guy, Hilda Hassey. Okay, I like that. I can dig it. Sounds good. Okay, if there are any questions that are lost in there, when I'm done demoing, I'll scroll through and see if I can answer any if there are any in the chat, but I think we're good. The next one here is DropSuite new account. So this was something that when we partnered with DropSuite, they were interested in making it easy for their customers or mutual customers of Rewst and DropSuite to create new accounts. So they call them organizations in their platform. That's basically a user. And what we're doing is we're essentially setting up a user to add them to backup monitoring. So if you have a new employee joining, or you're adding new people to the company, or somebody has not yet been added to DropSuite for backup monitoring, then we are giving them a form basically that you can quickly fill that out and get somebody added into to DropSuite essentially. So I'll open up the form here as well, just so we can take a peek at that. It's pretty straightforward. We're just grabbing the organization name for DropSuite, checking if the user already exists in DropSuite, then we're putting the email, the plan that they have for backup monitoring in DropSuite, and then giving some information, and then the seats and everything as well. And I'll be honest, I'm not an expert in DropSuite, so I don't know exactly what all of these fields do in a ton of detail, but it's kind of the boilerplate setup stuff that you would need to get a user into DropSuite, and just making it easier for people to self-serve in that sense. And then the workflow itself, quite straightforward. We're checking the inputs that we got from the form, validating that everything is good, grabbing the plans that we have in DropSuite, checking to make sure that the plan that somebody has selected exists, creating the user, and then the only other portion here is that there's an SSO setup that we would do as well, and that will be then sent. I believe it's in the ticket that it'll be sent, so that somebody has the link to set up SSO for the account, and then we'll create a ticket to kind of document all the things that we've done here. And how that ends up looking is this myriad of different test users or organizations that we have here. I think the one that we did here for the demo was demo org name. So it's just adding somebody in. So you'll know it's successful if they show up as an organization in DropSuite, and that means that they're signed up for the correct backup plan that you've selected.
They'll dispose of it for me. Oh, sorry.
And then they'll get rid of it for you. Cool. Okay, and then just to show the ticket that we get here. So the ticket is just pretty standard stuff. We're just showing what the Rewst execution is, and then we're showing the SSO link as well, and then just saying that the person that got set up is this email address. Again, quite straightforward, meant to be pretty easy, just getting people set up in DropSuite for backup monitoring. Any questions about that one at all? And I see the iterations of Jesse Hildebrand continue. Brian says, GZ Hiltodaian. That sounds like Greek Jesse, possibly, maybe. You guys are too funny. Any questions at all for this one? Or
Carl asked, does this work when purchased through PAX 8?
Does this work when purchased through PAX 8? I don't know, but I can get you an answer. As in, like, somebody's purchasing a DropSuite, like provisioning a DropSuite user through PAX 8. I can follow up too. I can grab it from the chat, and because I wouldn't want to give a actual answer. Cool. Okay. Yeah, I'll follow up on that one, and then I'll check the chat here in a sec after I'm done doing my demos. We can get an answer to that one. And then the last portion here is the billing count report. So I won't spend a ton of time on this one. This is pretty standard for the billing count report. As we add different things here, the way these all show up is you've just got a check to see if the relevant integration is installed. If it is, then it will go down the pathway of running the sub workflow that will grab the relevant counts. For DropSuite, it was grabbing users, and then it was also grabbing shared mailboxes. Another thing they wanted us to specify here as well. And it will just go through its regular cycle of going through all the different sub workflows for all the different integrations, gathering those counts, and then putting them into a CSV all in one place. And then I do have a sample. The data is not great, so forgive me here for showing not the best example, but we do have, here's the columns that will show up. So you'll get active seats, the DropSuite organization, the organization ID, paid shared mailboxes, and then used seats are the ones that you'll get. I think the thought here is that DropSuite charges for shared mailboxes, and then they also have the seats you're using and then the seats that you're paying for. So there's there could be a discrepancy there, and that's where the usefulness of this kind of comes in. So. And with that, I think that's all the DropSuite stuff that we have for today. Again, we're going to also be doing the additions to the user onboard and user offboard workflows in the next week or so, hopefully. And then I should specify that these are going to be released hopefully on Monday, if not likely Tuesday of next week. So you won't see them in the Crate Marketplace today, but they will be in there early next week, hopefully before everybody takes off for Thanksgiving. So. Any last questions on DropSuite stuff or marketplace stuff before I pass it back to Ash? Silence is golden. Get to look through 800 iterations of my family name in the chat, I'm sure.
Awesome.
Perfect.
Well, thank you, Jesse. For anybody
everybody.
who hasn't been keeping track, we had Aaron, and then we had George, and Clea, and Jesse. So we're about 50-50 on the Canadian versus US presenters today. And now we're going to tip the scale back into Canada favor with Danial.
Let's go.
Oh, Canada.
Speaking of Canada versus US, we already had our Thanksgiving in October. So I'm just going to tell you all that I am thankful for every last one of you, because I won't see you next week. The Rewst community is insane. I love every Friday seeing your faces and your wonderful teams, initials. It's great. Every single week, I feel more and more incompetent just because of the stuff you demo and because Aaron tells me I'm incompetent. But let's move on to what we've been up to this week. Today is a monumental day in the relationship of Ashley, Kelvin, and myself, but less importantly, the relationship of Rewst and CIPP, because we are announcing a CIPP integration today. So we will be doing a couple of demos of that. I want to give some kudos to Josh, who's going to quickly show us some just setup stuff and just show CIPP running, and then we're going to have Kelvin demo some stuff for CIPP. So that's a big integration for us, huge request by the community. We also have the AeroSphere integration that we have released today. So this is more for purchasing licenses related to software like cloud infrastructure, all this fun stuff. I have assumed by George's smile that something's blowing up in the chat. I'm not even going to look at it. We have also enabled the automatic hiding of secrets like passwords when you're setting up your integration. We've recategorized the integrations. So if I could just move my Teams thing here, you can see that we have some new integration categories, both on our front-end marketing page as well in our integrations page. We've made an update to the Notion integration because the Notion API is changing. We have a bunch of bug fixes that came out this week. And then we have next week some fun stuff relating to RobRewsty results analysis coming. So we've been testing this internally, and we have just some better visibility into what happened with your workflow execution results. So AeroSphere integration is here. I'll use this as a duo thing. I'm just going to show you that the password is now masked. So you can see, I don't even see that password at all anymore. If I show it, you can see Aaron does in fact smell like IPA because he drinks so much IPA. If I go into, I think that might be all I have to show. Yeah, I just have the ArrowSphere integration here. I can run a quick test and list all the licenses that I have in ArrowSphere. If I press test, will succeed, I hope, and I will be able to view the results and see all the different licenses. But with that, maybe I'll pass it off to Josh, who once again successfully built a CIPP integration. We can all thank him for that. And he will quickly show us a little demo of what he built. Are you around, Josh?
Hi.
Yes.
Yeah, sorry. Hello, everybody. So I'll be demoing real quick on CIPP integration. Wait, let me share my screen here. My internet is pretty slow right now, so if you guys see a little loading, I apologize. But yeah, here. First and foremost, we have our setup. Setup's pretty simple. We just go to the integrations page, you go to CIPP, and from here on, you just input your URL, client ID, client secret, and tenant ID. And then from here, we also have our religion mapping. Org mapping is tied to the tenants. So when you go to the dropdown, we have the list of tenants that we have right now. And then next, we will move on to the actions. So right now, we launched 3 use cases for the actions for CIPP. We have domain and health, we have security management, and we have tenant management. So these are the actions that are available for now with these use cases. So yeah, we can do a little test here. Actually, I can show you here. There are drop downs here that you can select the tenants and all these. Yep, and then we can do a little test here. Hopefully it runs. Okay. So yeah, as you can see, these are succeeding. Some of these might take a while because my internet is like pretty slow. But if you want to see the full green, we have it here. We got like the tenants here, the list, and we got like the graph requests, all that. And yeah, that should be it. Daniel.
We had a question from Gary about user creation. Can you talk about the other endpoints that might become available in a short period of time? We have 2 others, right?
Yes, we have user management. And yes, so the user will be there. User use case, user manager use case, and
GDAP management, right?
Yeah, we have GDAP management too. Yeah.
Perfect. So that those two will be coming.
License. We have 3. We have user management, GDAP, and license management.
Awesome. That is
Thanks,
so
Josh.
great. And yes, on that note, thank you so much. That is awesome. That is great. Now we are going to jump over to Kelvin, who is going to show kind of an example of how a workflow with it could look. And I do believe he has a form integration also.
Wait, I thought you were joking. I thought I was really not going to show anything and we were just going to mess around here.
Yeah, we'll mess around while you show them the workflow.
Okay.
While
While I am building something, I'll distract you guys. All right. So if you guys don't know me, I am Kevin Tallahassee. I'm the creator of CIPP. I keep calling myself the creator, but I am the founder of CIPP. The community created CIPP, all of you. And I just decided to keep building it. I'm going to show you a couple of things today. Let's first show you some workflows. And for that, I'll have to share my screen. Let me close off all the secret information. My I Love Jesse page, my I Love Danial page, my danielsfeet.com, close that one. Okay. Let me share my screen. You guys should be able to see my screen now. I hope. If not, we have a bigger problem. All right, cool. So, I'm going to show a couple of things today, including a little form. Let me actually get started with that, and then I'll show the workflows that are attached to the form.
Okay.
So one of the cool things that we have is the CIPP validate user identity stuff. If you don't know, CIPP has the ability to validate a user. And I have to explain this a little bit more in the background by sending a MFA request to a user, but it's not a direct MFA request they're used to. In their Authenticator app, they get a little pop-up saying, someone is trying to validate your identity. Do you approve yes or no? It's not a full MFA prompt. It is a partial MFA prompt. They only get a yes or no answer. So in this case, I've created a form that has the ability to select a tenant and select a user. I've done that by creating two option generators, two workflows to create an option generator. One of them is creating the tenant list. It's super simple workflow. All we do is list the tenants. That's really all we do. Even this set variable option, I didn't really need it. I did it because Ash told me that workflow with only one item isn't a workflow, so it has to be two. There we go. All we're doing here is just sending the CIPP list tenants thing from the CIPP integration. List tenants is one of the most important things there is because you'll always need to filter down on these tenants specifically. You can also use the mapping in the integration to map the tenants correctly to a client. Really important, so you don't have to fill in the tenant filter for each client. Cool thing is that CIPP list tenants gives you just those results. Let me actually demonstrate how that looks, because here we have the select a tenant option. We select the tenant, and then after we select a tenant, it starts looking for a valid user to send an MFA push message. That is a slightly different workflow. It's also an options generator, but instead of just having the single action with just an output, we change the output slightly because for user validation, we only want to list users that have a specific authentication option, Microsoft Authenticator push. Because on all those other users, it simply won't work. So instead of listing all the users and hoping that when we click, it'll start working, we actually filter down. So this is a tiny little bit of Jinja that just says, we want all the users, but we want to make sure that we only get the users that have Microsoft Authenticator push available. Now, I could run this form right now, and actually, you know what? I will, because it's incomplete work. I'm not done. I'm going to run this form, and I'm going to show you guys that it's not working yet. Simply because I didn't finish it, but I always think that it's important to show the mindset of how you create these workflows. Because I wanted to make something cool. I wanted to make something really cool for everyone. I wanted to make sure that everyone got this cool little page in App Builder where you could enter a form, select a tenant. Let me select the partner tenant right now. Select a user. Like I said, this isn't done yet. Like I was building this today. I was chatting to people about it in the Kewp. Also really important, when you're workflow building, make sure you talk to the people in the Kewp because there's so many people smarter than you. Owen helped me so much today in figuring this out. I just didn't finish it yet. You can hit submit. And at this moment, it starts running the workflow. Now, my biggest issue right now is that this is using the previous workflow result, and it might take a while. So you will get, you'll only get an update later on without seeing any updates here. That's what I'm working on. Like I said, I'm showing you guys something incomplete. But right now, what is happening for the user in this tenant, in this specific case, the partner or the user has received a push message. Actually, let me do this a little bit live. Hey, John, are you here? God, I hope you're here. Because I'm sending you a push message.
He was here earlier. He might be pretending. Let's see. John, are you here?
So I now
He's here.
I send him a push message on his phone, and with a bit of luck, he'll approve it, and this status will update while we're on the call. And if not, then, well, I'm out of luck. And the question is, why wouldn't I just do this in CIPP? Well, there's a couple of answers to that, Gary. Number one is you don't always want everyone to have full access to everything in CIPP. There are some users, for example, your pure tier 0.1, users, you don't want to give them full access to CIPP. And in this case, we finally see, hey, received an MFA confirmation, success. John just approved my MFA confirmation. You can also create pods in your PSA for this, or in Autotask, create a live link. It is limited access for specific users. That is one of the ways that you can utilize this. Of course, CIPP has its own role management as well, but that only allows you to hide complete APIs, and sometimes you want to give them some access, not all access. So that's a good example why. That's of course not all. I'm not done yet. I'm not done presenting. I like hearing myself talk. You guys know that. There's a couple of other things that are really useful inside of these sorts of automations. Domain health status is a good one. I've created this workflow as a sort of no-opt mocked thing. CIPP has the option, which has been created by John Dupree. Thank you so much for this, John. John is one of the employees at Cyberdrain that, and one of the partners at Cyberdrain that created the entire DNS management module. It allows you to directly get DNS results without having to jump through difficult hoops. So in this example, I can type any domain. By the way, if you guys want me to use another domain than Rewst.io, just tell me in chat and I'll copy and paste it in here. But we can run a DMARC policy test on this specific domain. If it's hosted with us, if it's hosted anywhere else, if it like all this kind of stuff, it doesn't matter. It's all using a special DNS module that actually parses the results and gives us the information. So in this case, we checked the Rewst.io records for DMARC. We're seeing what their DMARC policies are set to. But if we scroll down, we're also seeing, hey, there are some validation passes, but there's also some validation fails. Now, what you could do if you're a really good automator, if you're having fun automating in Rewst, if you're a poor automator, if you are just automating for the hell of it, you could do all of this. You could change your DNS settings. You could connect to your DNS provider, say, hey, you know what? Update these records to not validate or to no longer have a validation failure. And when you're no longer having a validation failure, send an email to your client. Dear client, we noticed that your domain name blah blah blah.com wasn't completely secure. Our automated systems picked that up and changed your DNS records. We changed your DNS records to make sure that we add some security, blah, blah, blah. If you don't agree with this change, or if you have more questions, contact your help desk at blah, blah, blah.com, which gives you so much visibility at the client. The client, if your client is slightly technically inclined, it's going to be so happy you're proactively doing this. And that's one of those ways where you can use CIPP functionality to extend to your other functionality. The cool thing is that you can do this for any type of record. So if you're not working with DMARC and DKIM yet and just working on your SPF, there is an option for that. There is an option for the MTA STS. There is an option for DNSSEC, etc., etc. Come on, no one noticed that little slip of the tongue? Okay. Logan. Yeah, okay. Moving on. Like I said, I don't want to show you guys just one or two things. CIPP. So many CIPP stuff. When you do want to authenticate a user's identity, you don't have to use the form. You can also use a workflow just by using the test button. There's a couple of cool checks that I've built in here. It's, for example, the tenant and the UPN have to be set, but they're not actually required, even if they're required. Have you guys noticed that? You can still hit, let me click on John's thing again. John at dev.johnwdupre.com. Let me just copy and paste that here. If I hit test here, it works. It should go through, send an MFA push. You have to wait for the user to confirm. So you have to tell the user, hey, you should receive an MFA push right now. And then eventually it comes to this one and says like, hey, yeah, it was a success. Now let's forget about the, oh, actually, John probably hit success. There we go. Few results. There. Thank you, John, for pressing OK. But now we can close this one. And imagine that we click test again. And instead of filling anything in, we just hit test. We want it to fill cleanly. So in this case, we just say, hey, UPN.set, we view the results, and what does it say? Please enter a UPN and tenant ID to continue the workflow. There you go. I guess that's all I wanted to show. I hope I didn't go through it too fast. And there were some questions about some other stuff. One of them being questions about user management. Well, you can do it right now directly. There is one amazing action available already, the CIPP API request. The CIPP API request allows you to create any API request that you want to CIPP. Cool thing about this one is that you're able to easily see what API request CIPP makes. All you have to do is hit F12, go to the network tab, and the front end always makes the exact same request as a backend request. So you can just copy and paste that to Rewst and you're done. That's it. Any questions?
We can let some questions scroll. One thing I wanted to say, guys, is that I'm going to let Jesse jump in because we're going to be relying on your brains now that the juices have been flowing a little bit to think about what you actually want to see. So, Jesse, if you want to jump in there.
CIPP crates, baby. We're going to be posting in Discord after the open mic today to get your ideas for CIPP crates. CIPP, as Kelvin said, is built by the community, so we want to hear your ideas. We don't know if we can do it, so just put it in there and we'll figure it out later. And then Ash, myself, George, we're all meeting up next week in Canada. It's a Canadian themed week to talk about the CIPP crates that you guys give feedback for. So please respond to that survey and give us some ideas in Discord, and then more to come. That's it.
Thank you, guys. All right, so get your juices going. Think about that. Now we are actually going to jump over to Gareth. Yeah.
Hiya.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, it's you. Yes. How's it going? I am so
you.
excited that you are here. I love it when you grace us with your presence. You tell everybody what you're working on.
Yes. So this is something I kind of came up with at like, I don't know, about 9 o'clock at night, and I started building it up till about 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning because it's just got addictive. So essentially, last couple of weeks I've been looking back at old workflows we've done, and obviously I've improved as an engineer, so I was like, right, how can I improve these other workflows? And one came to mind is the compromised mailbox. Now, one of the problems is with the compromised mailbox, there's not always a guarantee it was compromised, or the reporting, you essentially you deal with it, you have to send it off to security and stuff like that. So I thought, right, how can we get this a better report? So I built something. So let me share my screen. Can everybody see okay? I am on a big screen, so you might have to zoom in on Teams. Yep. So essentially, I've already run this workflow, so I can show you straight after because it does take a couple of minutes to run. So, kind of again, we wanted to kind of get a whole entire breakdown of everything that user's been doing, why we're getting an alert or anything like that. And also the way I've built this is something I'm going to be adding into Thread. I know George mentioned that earlier, and also something I'll be adding to auto run on Octiga alerts. This isn't a final product, but yeah, it's pretty good on what it does, and I'm quite happy with it. So kind of self-explanatory. All this is doing is simply going in. Hang on, I've got Teams in the corner. Let me just minimize that a second. Just simply grabbing all the top 50 of the last sign-in logs. Now you can go for 100 or kind of whatever you want, but I'm trying to keep it to kind of like minimal, and there's a reason for that. So I have what we call pattern check. What this essentially does, it goes through and it checks that pattern to see, okay, has it been X amount of attempts in so many minutes? So it can tell you if it's a brute force attempt, or essentially if it's just like one successful login or so many within that same hour. So it's pretty good. Now with us, I'm assuming same with all of you, we on IT Glue, we kind of update users who's abroad, who's away, that sort of thing. So all this part simply does is literally goes up and it checks to see, okay, is the sign-in logs matching kind of what's in IT Glue? Yeah, it is. Okay, let it bypass. Now, if it's not obviously excluded, this is kind of where the fun part comes. So in here, there is some big filters in here. So I'm trying to narrow the task down a little bit instead of having so many running. This essentially grabs all that sign-in summary that we've got previously, and then it simply kind of breaks it all down. Like I said, there's a lot here, and it picks up flags, risk score, the verdict, and the notes of it. So essentially, it's instantly, instead of you having to kind of keep looking through all these IPs and everything else to see kind of, you know, any if there's any issues or anything like that, it does it for you. And then, you know, these are kind of, again, a bit self-explanatory. I'm scanning the inbox rules. Okay, is there anything malicious in there? We'll create a nice little filter for that. So it goes and inspects them rules. Then from there, it then goes and inspects, you know, is there an email forwarding? And it doesn't just check essentially the rules to see if there's mail forwarding. It obviously generally checks pretty much anywhere that you can put it. So, you know, you can get it from transport rules. You can kind of just get it from, you know, directly add in. So from there, we then go get everything else. We're essentially grabbing, you know, all the auth methods, getting the whole entire profile of, you know, we're calling quite a few things here. Everything from is account enabled, the user type, creation data time, password policies, you know, all that. And then this is kind of where AI comes in. So my AI prompt is, you know, it goes into quite detailed. I call it breach lens, and it is pretty good. So, you know, essentially we're grabbing everything that we've done and we're adding it in. And yeah, essentially from there, update the ticket with results, but also we get a nice HTML report. Now, there's a reason for that. So I'll show you the actual runnings of the workflow in a minute, but this is kind of a quick overview of the ticket update. So it's not perfect yet. Bear in mind, this isn't at the end because I am going to be also adding stuff like check the last 50 emails. Is there anything in there? You know, is there some sort of pattern? You know, that sort of thing. Any deleted? But like see here, it's picked up overall assessment suspicious, same day access from Great Britain, Japan, Australia, and Germany with failed success patterns. And at the bottom, if the engineers don't want to read all that, it gives the escalation reasons. So suspicious inbox rules deletes mail, failed success patterns, and multiple countries with access within minutes. So it looks at it and goes, actually, is this realistic? Can they really travel that quick? And also it does look, so obviously this is a sandbox. I don't really have a managed device to kind of show you, and I weren't going to give you my real IPs. So yeah, essentially it does pick up if you're logging into something that is a managed device or not, and it will flag up the names and everything else with it. But that report looks horrible. So me being me, I'm getting pretty good at HTML lately. So I made a nice little simple report. A lot easier to read, break it down. You can essentially send this to your clients or anything you want after. So like you can see here, it's got the location. It even tells you the application resource. And here we go, look, so we can see, okay, well, that was a success, but the first time around it was a fail. And then you look before that, it's Tokyo. So you know somebody's been breached somewhere in between here. So it's just quite good to get straight to the point, and you know you get a whole entire breakdown of the conditional access policy, so it does look at stuff. So the things I will be adding is when essentially someone's trying to use an MFA, it checks their MFA to see if, you know, they're using iOS or Android as well. And then obviously my HTML is not perfect yet, so bear that in mind. But as you can see here, it picks up all the types, you know, the MFA methods, and it picks up the risk. And for an engineer, nice, easily, immediately disable and remove the suspicious rules, force passwords reset. You know, it gives the engineers straight away something to go look at and go, okay, this is what's recommended me to do. So yeah, there is a lot more data. It does pick up. I just not essentially created all the filters and everything for it. But this would run first, and then I'm going to be building onto this. So at the bottom of this in the ticket, it'll have a webhook. So instead of kind of doing a whole compromised mailbox report, you click that webhook and it'll instantly go run for that user. Not quite there yet, but obviously as I'm updating this, you know, if you guys are kind of interested in the progress with this, it's something, you know, I don't mind showing, you know, a little bit more as I start building it out, you know, to do more things essentially. But yeah, that pretty much kind of covers pretty much what it does. Overall, I'm quite happy with it. Still room for improvement and still a couple of things I need to do. But yeah. Any questions or anything?
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
So you report on logins from like different IP addresses like that are all over the place. Does that account for like VPN IP addresses? Are you cross-checking to see if those are associated with any VPNs?
So not necessarily, because obviously the way this kind of works, so obviously I haven't been to Germany or Japan or anything myself, especially in a short space of time. But it literally just grabs the 365 logs, and then it pulls down kind of all the IPs from there, and then compares to travel times and everything else. Obviously, trying to sit there and go, right, that's 100%. Somebody logging onto their personal machine and using Norton VPN is going to be quite hard to say that really. So at least in this way, you can kind of review it. But most of us have conditional access location blocking, for example. This does pick that up as well. But again, because it's in sandbox environment, I can't show you every detail because I don't want people knowing my home IP and stuff. So.
Thank you so much. That was really awesome to see. Looks like you got a lot of kudos there as well. We're gonna jump now.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'd be curious. Could that be tied into like the research potentially breached user that is in CIPP? Maybe tie that into the workflow.
Yeah, possibly. That could be pretty good.
Yeah, I think it would be really good.
You guys could keep that conversation going in the CIPP channel, talking about maybe what could be in a crate or something. That'll be fun. All right, so we're going to jump to our last demoer now. Jacob, are you on?
That is me.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Want to tell us a little bit? We can, yeah. Tell us a little bit about what you're going to show us today.
So it is a custom workflow for gathering UniFi devices from a cloud console. And we're using it to compare against our PSA and create config items as needed. Let me see here. How do I share my screen again? It's been forever. Can you guys see that?
Yep.
Okay. So what it does is it creates a list. There's a list of active config items and a list of companies. And what we do is we then compare to the devices listed on our cloud console, which I would show you the API docs that I used for that, but that shows our console's public IP, so I can't do that. So what it does is it uses a sub workflow to then go through, get the sites on the cloud console, and then create a list. And then it goes through that list and iterates per site to get the devices that each site has. And then it creates a more informative list that has more details about the devices and sends that back up to the primary workflow where I create some custom JSON queries for Autotask using the company name, the type of device that it is, whether it's a switch, an access point, or a firewall. And we have to put in our product IDs in Autotask so that it knows what device it is. And then just creating what is essentially the bare minimum JSON for Autotask to create the config item. We use a custom vendor ID for Ubiquiti devices so that our reporting can be filtered down. And then fill out the configuration item types, the company name, and everything like that. We're putting custom notes based on device details like the firmware version. And it just sends that off to Autotask and creates a custom templated config item. And when I ran it initially, it went through and found 552 config items that were missing from Autotask. And then toward the end here, it runs a cleanup script that removes duplicates and it removes inactive devices. So it'll go through the current list from the cloud console and see if there are devices that are no longer there. And if they're still in Autotask, it marks them as inactive so that we don't have lingering devices. And then the deduplication, this here is in case somebody manually put in a config item. This here we'll see, is there one that doesn't have the same layout as the ones that are automatically created? And if so, it deletes it. And There are some snags, like you run it per UniFi console. So there's the cloud console, and then we have one customer that has the Enterprise Fortress Gateway, which requires its own API calls. So I had to make a separate sub workflow for it. But for the most part, it's pretty much copy and paste. If you want to create a new sub workflow, you just copy it and edit it with the new API endpoint, and you're done. And that's about all that I really have to say about it. It took me quite a while to create because I initially wanted to go through the site manager, but the site manager doesn't show you device details, like what site each device belongs to. So I had to go and query the actual console itself. So that was fun figuring that out for 2 weeks. But it's up and working. I have it set to run every month on the 27th for our end of month billing. And yeah, I can't wait to see it in action this month.
That's cool. You'll have to post your findings for us so that we can hear how it went.
Absolutely.
Thank you. We've got a couple minutes here. Any questions for Jacob? Not?
Nothing.
That's great. Thank you. You did a good job just explaining it all.
Thank you.
Any questions in general from anyone else? Now's the time. We got a couple minutes before we all drop off for the weekend.
I have one question. Can Daniel show the new canvas?
You know what? I cannot at the moment. I would get dragged across the coals by the team. But
Aaron,
you know what?
Aaron, can Daniel show?
No, Aaron's
can Daniel
busy.
show
Aaron's
it?
busy right
Deflecting.
now. We will work on. So James Hunt on the core team and the core team are working on this. We've had a couple of internal demos. It's not quite ready to show that first iteration of it, but maybe we can give a sneak peek at some point and give some better timelines in the near future. That's my political answer. We will have demos coming at some point, and the delivery of the feature is going to be coming in relatively short period of time. So it's being worked on. They're making huge progress on it. Sorry. Not sorry.
Joel.
Oh no, what's Joel going to say? He's got a big grin.
I was just going to say, since you had to give us your political answer, I can call you after the meeting. You can just, maybe your computer won't blow up.
All right. Look at the time, everybody. Thank you, Ash, for putting this together. I know it can be stressful and time-consuming. Thank you, Kevin Tallahassee, for have a good weekend, everybody. We'll talk.